This is another plant I'm sketching for the Sketchbook Project. I didn't realise it's been 4 years since the last one, so it's well overdue. This one is a lot quicker and easier and quite fun. Today we're sketching the Eucalyptus nortonii. This style of sketching can be applied to any plant. This is a little bit different to the others because I'm using a pen, and that's going to make it a lot quicker and I think more accessible. You don't have to have any fancy gear at all. It doesn't matter really what sort of paints or brushes you have. Even the paper is not very heavy and it's a toned paper, so it's quite forgiving. So let's just get into learning about this Eucalyptus nortonii. I've got some pieces of the Eucalyptus nortonii to paint. Now it's in bud at the moment, so there's no flowers yet. I might add a flower later. So these are the buds and the adult leaves. Then these are the juvenile leaves, so I might just paint a couple of those. And this is the fruit. So I just need to work out a composition for this. So I think I'll do something like, I'm not going to do it exactly like the specimen. You know, we can use our artistic license here, but I'll probably have something like this, and maybe the juvenile up here, and maybe the fruit down here, and then I'll write the name across the top. This one is going to be a bit faster than my previous ones, I think, as in this sketchbook sketch, because today I'm actually going to use this marker. It's a sepia colour and it's waterproof. That's very important. But that, you know, then I'll have the outlines and then I'll be colouring in. But I am going to sketch them in pencil first because there is still the control freak in me. So I did look up a little bit of information about this species, and so the common name is the Mealy Bundy. Mealy referring to this white glaucous coating which appears on the buds and on the stem, and to some extent the leaves. Not quite as obvious. But so we'll try and capture that. Because we're working on toned paper, I am probably going to use a little bit of white paint for that effect. Whereas if I was working on white paper or cream paper, it is preferable to use the white of the paper to get that white effect. Okay, so I'm going to start just with a little sketch down here. I am really going to try and be quite loose today, and it just needs to be representative of the species, not necessarily picture perfect to the specimen that we have. Okay, so take note of where the leaves are coming off the stem. I don't know if I guess I can just have that. So things to pay attention to are the length of the petiole here. I love that we've got a little bit of orange and yellow happening here. It's always nice to add a little bit more colour. Just kind of getting in some outlines so that then I'll go over the pen, with the pen. Now this here is going behind, but I might have him actually pop down that way more. I might send him off the page as well. And again, just looking at the length of that. This leaf shape is called lanceolate. It's quite interesting if you actually look up in a botanical reference book or online, I actually love the PlantNet website, and you can find a description. So then you really know that you're getting everything right, but observation is really the most important thing. Okay, I'll send this one down like this. I don't think I'm going to worry about this little curl here today. Just turn that around so I can see really how that shape is going there. I think that's a little lerp. Should I taste it? Okay, and then we've got a bit happening here with some buds. I will put these. So now, one of the things when you look it up, it says there's 7 buds. So this is actually really quite pretty how the 6 are around and then the 7th one is coming straight out this way. So I might try and incorporate that. Looks like obviously some have fallen off these ones, so that's going to happen. Try and get the shape of the bud right, because that is usually one of the identifying characteristics. Foreshortening can be tricky, so you might just want to turn your specimen around a little bit so that you don't have that issue quite so much. Now, if you look closely, there is actually it's called a scar just around there. So it's important to include that because some do not have a scar. I think I'll bring that down that way a little bit more. Okay, and then this one, I may not worry about that one for the moment because I'm trying to keep this fairly short. Now, I'm going to just, okay. Okay, so that one's going up that way. Conical, okay, now I'm going to just because there's 6, just try and make sure I get, the angles of those right. Sketch that in a bit. Rightio. So once I've drawn this all in pencil, then I can go over it with the pen and erase the pencil. Some people do sketch in pen. I'm not at that. I'm not at that stage, that level of confidence. Something not quite right there. I don't think that would be quite so long. Right, and then we'll have another leaf out here. And look, been eaten a little bit by some insects, and we know that's pretty standard for a eucalyptus, or probably any plant. So I'm going to include that. Makes it a little more realistic. Same with this one here, and it's nice to have it curling around too. That's like pleasing to the eye. And it's quite freeing knowing that this is just a sketch. And you know what? I think I might just leave that like that. I think we're going to have enough to do now. I have a little bit of a jagged end there. Okay, well, look, I'll just work out the rest of the composition while I'm here. I think with these leaves, so these are some smaller ones that they actually get massive. I do like the colour in that one, but I think that's just going to overtake the whole composition. So I'm going to nip off this little tip here, and we'll just pop him there like that. So the juvenile leaves are opposite. Okay, so he might just fit nicely in here. Oh, it smells good. Very rounded. Nice little red edge as well. I think I got that a little bit wrong there. Just sketching softly so that I don't leave indentations. Okay. They're fairly similar in size. I did see some that were actually quite different. So it doesn't really matter. Okay. And I think that's enough for that. And then these little guys, this description of these, it says the valves are exerted. So it means they're protruding out. Where am I going to put it? Because I could put some details down here about where this was collected. So I might do that, and I'll just draw the fruit in here. So I might make that more straight across there. And then how many of those are there? Four. Well, that one's got 3. Okay. From this angle, you're not going to see all of them anyway, so I'll just do that, I think. Okay, I think I'm ready to pop in some outlines. All right, here we go. So I'm just going over all those outlines. What size is this? It just says small. Sometimes they'll say how many millimeters, like 0.4 or 0.8 or whatever. This is fairly thick, I would say. it's probably a good idea to turn the paper around to get a nice flow with your lines. So, because I want to go like this. And I do want to put a little bit of that vein in. I mean, it might be nicer to have used a thinner pen for the veins. But I'm trying not to get too hung up. This is why I don't do much graphite work, because I'm smudging things with my hand. I'm too messy for graphite. Get these little insect-eaten bits. Try not to make these veins, the midrib, too thick. All right, I've been leaving this till last. I think I might change this one just a bit. So I'm going to try, which could be a bit tricky because the pen is quite thick. I'll try and show 3 coming up here. So those 2 and then another little one in the middle. And then the top of that actually goes around the back. Right. So I would just leave it just a couple of minutes before you erase, but I can erase over this side. And now we get to the fun part, colouring in. So this is just a kneadable eraser, very handy, because you can mould it to get like little points if you need to. Okay, now as for the colour, Now, the front and the back of the leaves are the same colour, which is called concolorous. And they are getting probably a little fresher towards the bottom here, but it's quite a grey-green, beautiful. And then these are more of a limey colour underneath with that glaucous white coating, mealy coating, as they say. And then we've got a nice reddish stem, which comes to yellow, bit of yellow and orange down here. Beautiful colours. I'm going to start with a lemony sort of yellow and limey green. So I'm going to mix Windsor lemon and French ultramarine. On this toned paper, it could possibly be easier using all gouache, but I'm going to give it a go, just with the watercolour. Okay, it's time to put the glasses on. I'm going to try and stay in these lines, but you know, it's a sketchbook, so don't worry too much. This tone paper is very forgiving. Most things look pretty good on it, I reckon. Okay, and I can go over it, and I will probably go over it in places with some red, burnt sienna. Now I'm going to make that a little more green with a bit more French ultramarine. Also need to be a bit careful. I don't want to use too much water because this paper is not that thick. It's not that heavy, so it will buckle. So I probably should be using a bit more of a dry brush kind of technique. I'm just going to go over all these buds, get like a basic green down. Okay, and I might just darken it just a little bit, kind of towards the center of those, that cluster of buds. Traditionally with botanical art, we have the light coming from the left-hand side, which means if there is going to be any shadow, it will be on the right-hand side. I mean, these are pretty flat, the leaves, but with the buds, you could put like just a little bit darker on the right-hand side in some instances. You know, we're not doing traditional botanical art, so don't stress too much, but it is good if the light can be consistent. Okay, and I'm going to put some colour on the stem. I'm going to mix up some burnt sienna and a little bit of permanent rose. I'm moving to a slightly bigger brush now, just to save a bit of work. I'm still quite watery, so that was a bit light, I think. Okay, back to the small brush, and just going to pop a little bit into those stems. And I'll pop a bit more down the right hand side because that will help make the stem seem a little bit three-dimensional. So I'm just kind of using a drier, more concentrated mix of paint there. You could add a little bit of French ultramarine to that mix, which would make that a little bit darker. Okay, maybe I'll do that. Oh, look, I'm even going outside the lines. So proud of myself. While we've got this reddish colour here, I'll just add a bit in here because these were a bit more red than yellow. Okay, and now we'll add the green to the leaves. So again, I'm going to add a bit more blue to that mix. I probably actually need to mix up some more. So my Windsor lemon and French ultramarine. So again, you can do some little test patches down here to see how that colour. It's really hard to tell because your palette is generally white, and then when it comes on here to this toned paper, it's a bit different. That's probably more concentrated than what it's actually going to be. Let me see if I can, if I dip my brush in, I can probably just grab a bit of that back out. It's not bad. I mean, it's always going to be lighter, but I think the colour is okay. So again, don't be afraid to turn your paper around. It's a very watery mix, which is how I'm used to painting, but it's probably just not going to quite cut it here. I might have to do a couple of coats. I will try now to make that a bit more intense. Okay, we'll see how this one goes. Don't want to put my hand where I've just added some paint. Okay, that might be a bit better. My works are always, you know, paler than the original, so I'm not too concerned about that. You still want it fairly watery though, so that it flows nicely. And you don't want to muck around too much while you're here. Can sort of suggest the direction of the little veins while you're in there. Okay, come back to this one and see how it handles another coat. If you've got a good tip on your brush, on a bigger brush, you can sort of persevere, but otherwise you might need to move to a smaller brush for those little bits. Mine's not amazing, but it's kind of getting me through. just want to work quickly so that I don't get left with little brush marks and little lines through there that I don't want. So, you know, if you do want to come back after and add a few more suggestion of veins, you can do that. I mean, they're really not very prominent. You can just see a little bit of a suggestion. Yeah. But, yeah, but you could do, you know, something like that. Or you could even do it with the pen if you wanted to. Well, now that I've started, I feel like I have to keep going with that. Nothing too obvious because they are not obvious. Okay, now my paper's starting to buckle. All right, and look, while I'm here, I may as well pop these ones in. You could add a little bit of shading like into the middle here because they kind of, they'll be a little bit darker because it suggests that they're kind of going in like that. Well, this little guy's pretty easy now. So he's just a brown, which I'm going to use a burnt sienna and French ultramarine. Now he's pretty, I don't want him to be as light as these because it's actually it's very hard and solid. Okay, and then I'll definitely get a bit more French ultramarine and make that side darker because that will then suggest that roundedness. So there would even be a little bit of dark around that side too. They're quite textured, gnarly. The valves, like they're kind of a grey mostly, so I'll just wait till that dries and then I'll pop those in. Now, while I've got this brown, I can probably add a couple of little brown bits like in here at the tips of the buds, up along here there's a few. So yeah, look, again, it's just a bit of a suggestion of some imperfections there, just to add a little bit of variation. I don't think we're going to see those tips anyway. Yeah, I might just pop a few little dots here and there, especially at the joins, the leaves coming off the stem there. There'll be a few on the leaves themselves, especially where it's been eaten. Some little dots here, so you feel free to pop a few of those in. And now just get that sort of grey, which I'm just using a little bit of French ultramarine mixed with the brown. Gosh, and it's nearly the same colour. Yeah, so a little bit of white. So I'm going to use, it's a permanent white, it's a gouache. It does have a little bit of yellow mixed in there, so I'm just trying to get that kind of clean. Probably doesn't matter. Just going to use it sparingly. Oh, also, it dries darker than what it looks. So I nearly freaked out when I just popped that on there. But when it's dry, it's not going to be as obvious. So look, just a few little marks of this white will kind of give, it'll suggest that like glaucous mealy appearance that this species is named for. And it is also, as I mentioned before, on this stem. So I'll pop a bit down there as well. The other thing is, if it's turning up too white, you can paint watercolour back over the top. That's too white, but hopefully that'll dry not so light. It's even a little bit in here, but I don't know. I'll just suggest that a bit there. While I've got the white, I might just lighten those up a little bit as well. It's weird to me working with a dark outline. So look, this is basically a little study of this plant, which has helped us to get to know the plant, and hopefully it's been a little bit of fun as well. But the other thing we can do now is add a little bit more detail to make the page a bit prettier. I'll just show you a previous one that I did of the red stringy bark. So we've got the name, the botanical name, we've got a few little comments written about it, but more importantly, where it was found and when. So we can add those details in now. People do all sorts of beautiful things. This is just basic information. You can do a lot more. It's up to you. I'm going to start with, I just kind of want it roughly centered here. Mealy Bundy. Yep, that's all right. And then that's not too bad. I'll let that dry before I do anything more to that. Okay, so I'll erase this now. You can make that as pretty as you want. And now we're going to write a few other details. which we can write up here or down or wherever you want. You know, you can attach little descriptions if you want to talk about the shape of the fruit, or, you know, that these are the juvenile leaves or whatever. You can write any of that. But what we'll do is down here we will write, now I'm not going to pencil this in, so hopefully it goes okay. So the date, so I did collect these specimens today, which is 8 of May 2026. You can put the time, you can write the weather conditions. I'm just going to write, it's in Jerebombera, which is where I live. And the location, so of this actual tree, and I think this is the most important. So I did jot this down because it's long. 35 point, which I just got these details from my iPhone, which is very handy. Elevation is also a good one. I can't remember what that is. I'm going to have to look that up. I do feel like we could have used, drawn something else up here to fill it up a bit. You know what? I think when I find the flowers, I might put a flower up here in this space. That's a little bit nicer. Okay, that's just about done now, and I found out the elevation was 700 metres. This has definitely been shorter than the previous Sketchbook Project examples, and I think it's a lot more achievable. You know, you can actually take this book out when you go bushwalking. You could do some of these sketches, you could do it with a pen. I think it's a really nice thing to do.